Critiquing the upload from NBC, whatever this channel is. They show that FDOT did alterations to the plan in their timeline. What they're not showing is that FDOT did alterations in the plans, is what they're really alluding to, or did not allude to properly, is that FDOT wrote. Let me get the plan. Let me get the. Here they are. Here. This is what FDOT did. So FDOT, Denny Pate's plans were presented. Obviously, FDOT's engineers, they, one or multiple versions of engineers there might have gone over the plans, but we have writing on the plans from FDOT. Those plans include temporary post-tension bars for SPMT hauling. Denny Pate, I remember these plans where they had the wrong plans out there initially, and now they've come full circle again for you guys. I'm showing that these plans, Denny Pate's plans, did not include post-tensioning in this member. If they were left alone and FDOT left this alone, then they could say they didn't have a hand in it. But FDOT did have a hand in it, because this is the bar that was detention. This is the detention during failure. Denny Pate that obviously did not, or FIG Engineering did not consider to add this in there. They would have maybe considered it, obviously, but they decided not to. And this playing around with multiple engineers and diving in and dipping out, I find to be quite irritating, especially with the I-35 bridge where it collapsed. And at one point, the federal government came along and said, "We don't like the gussage you're using, the type of steel." Now, nobody really talks about this I-35 and that real capacity, that issue there. The contractor said, "Okay, I'll change it to the steel you like." He went with half-inch, and I'm saying he. The contractor went with half-inch steel of the requirement that the government wanted. The government then vanished. In the report, you don't see where NTSB takes blame for the government, or stating the government was wrong. They should have followed up. Clearly, you would say they should have followed up, approved the half-inch plate, or they should say the half-inch plate was not approved, but they went forward with it. NTSB report leaves that for many years later for you guys to assume that the half-inch plate was not acceptable. Obviously, the half-inch plate was acceptable because the engineers for the government are the ones that were watching this structure, had their thumb on it. But NTSB report doesn't show that the government should have followed up, that the half-inch plate was now accepted by. Let me pause this. So I pulled up the NTSB report for you to show you what I verbally was saying just now. If you go to analysis, here it is: the Federal Highway, Minnesota Department of Transportation, and other state departments, and Minnesota and federal, right? Actually, their predecessors organizations were closely involved in some aspects of the design process for the I-35 bridge, which began with the bridge design firm's initial designs in 1962 and ended with the acceptance of the final design in 1965. So as we can see, that they stayed involved for 3 years. In 1964, based on blank blank, these people, Minnesota Department of Transportation and the Federal Highway, right? Design firm eliminated T1 steel from all structural members. This change required a redesign of all the members originally specified as T1 steel. So this is that. They changed again. The Federal Highway Department, right, also took issue with the design of a typical node. The agency was concerned about the lack of symmetry in the riveting pattern. Again, it's the Federal Highway. Everybody's dipping in, changing the structure, and then dipping away with being held harmless with their changes. I find this, unfair. Although both of these people jumped in and were closely involved with some specific features for I-35 bridge design, neither organization detected the failure to perform the appropriate design calculations for the gusset plates and the main trusses. So right here, you're jumping in, telling them, "I don't like this, do that," but NTSB is making it clear that neither of them really did that they really didn't find the failure before it happened. At the time, Minnesota Department of Transportation had design review procedures that provided for checking of consultants' computation, but these procedures were not applied to gusset plates. Complex construction projects are often contracted out to design firms such as, here we go, because neither the state nor the federal highway department has sufficient resources. The same lack of resources causes state and federal authorities to rely on the stamp of professional engineers to certify that all design computations are appropriate, complete, and accurate. Yeah, and then they turn around and they jump into the plans and start screwing with them. And then they jump away like, I didn't do that. Hold on. So here we have the Florida Department of Transportation jumping in and saying, add this in there. And down the line, this was the issue. This caused an issue because this wasn't added per the original engineers, or if this wasn't added or even suggested by FDOT, then this failure wouldn't have happened in this capacity. It would have happened, if it was going to happen, from them not having it in here. We would have seen it collapse, or issues would have happened as a non-result of this. But this wasn't in the engineer's mind at the time, apparently, and so there it is. This would be FDOT, throwing their hands in the engineering mixing pot and insisting it happens. And now it's just, throwing up the calculations of everything else, considering it to be nothing. We'll do it during transportation, and then we'll remove it for hauling. And that's the problem, because this was done as stage number 2 by Denny Pate's installation, whereas he should have, as it states here, in hindsight, and as it states here, for hauling purposes. But Denny Pate did when he post-tensioned this in the schedule, it was done third in line. I think it should have been last in line. Let's go from here. So as you look here at the superstructure precasting, right here we refer to stress deck longitudinal tendons D1. That's times 2, both sides. Stress canopy, C2. And then here's the part where FDOT jumps in. But stress post-tension bars, diagonal members 2 and 11. And evidence of why this should have been done last and during transportation, after load testing, in fact, and maybe again, it's just so iffy, putting these loads on there and then detention and taking the loads off and thinking you did, and not giving it respect as a cycle on the bridge. It's cycle. They did something, and especially with the reports that we've seen that when 2 and 11 was done, specifically 11, it created tension on number 10 as it appears in tension cracks. Which brings me to my other videos where I always talk about, what are these engineers, stupid? They can't see an engineer. Basically, what I'm saying, they can't see tension cracks compared to compressive cracks when they're evaluating cracks. Well, apparently the BPA does have some knowledge. The CEI, that's FIU's representative, does have an ability to realize that when 11 received its post-tensioning and this cycle, that it had created tension in what they said the steel and 10 was, and I showed that in the reports earlier. This is FDOT's hand in this. This would be, I believe, whoever the engineer, this is Denny Pate stamping it, so he ultimately is responsible. But whoever this engineer to put the 2 and 11 in this section, I don't get the logic behind that, especially after you're cracking and BPA stating these cracks. That this was a financial project, and maybe they just want to. It's just ignoring those cracks was just not an option. It was not an option. So making it clear, the safety board concluded that neither federal nor state authorities evaluated the design of the gusset plates for I-35 bridge in sufficient detail during the design and acceptance procedures. And I think we're going to see the same thing with FDOT. FDOT's claiming that, hey, we didn't really do much. But I'm saying they're the ones insisted in adding that tensioning and number 11, those rods. So they're just like the I-35 bridge, and I'm just giving you this little quick 10-minute, 10 plus minute teaser into this. This is page 132 of the report. I'll put it down there. I've always found this to be quite an irritation for me, because I see many engineers post about I-35 bridge and how this and that, but they're leaving out the number one thing is that the pot was mixed by the federal government and the state against the engineering's plans. The engineers, therefore, to me, can't take full responsibility of the failure. The failure falls back onto the state and the federal government also. You know, you can't just come to a Denny Pate and say, Denny Pate, I insist you to do this, and you put your stamp on it. That's basically what the state did to Denny Pate. That's basically what the state and federal government did to this bridge guy, and then turn around years later and blame them for the errors. If you look in this report, they'll back it out, and they'll just blame the contractor and not the state putting their hand in the mixing pot. I think we'll see the same type of retraction in this NTSB report, unless my video has an effect.